My amplified unit. Salute. Welcome to the Amped Up Podcast, Monday, September 25th, 2023. Another WWE Superstar recently released is speaking out. And it's another superstar that says Vincent Kennedy McMahon actually had his back. He blames a backstage political power move, which once again raises the question, how much pull did Paul Levesque McMahon have with this recent round of cuts? We're going to talk all about it in today's Amped Up Podcast. Also, Hulkamania is once again running wild. We're going to talk all about it, and a huge congratulations over to the Hulkster. We talked recently about a huge, literally and figuratively, return to WWE that is imminent. This dude could be coming back, especially because of the recent circumstances. Well, it seems like there's already a line that is forming to take on this individual. We'll talk all about it coming up in this podcast. And you might want to get your coffees. A bunch of coffees, because we're going to crack numbers. We have to do Steiner math. And when we talk a lot of numbers, I know it can be headache-inducing, but it needs to be discussed. How did WWE just cut a $1.4 billion deal? That's a lot of money. But yet they went down 20 points with the stock. How did they lose so much money? BC is going to show you exactly how this happened and why WWE grossly underestimated the smarts of these conglomerates. It's all discussed and a lot more in today's Amped Up Podcast. All you gotta do, grab those coffees, lock in your earbuds, smash those ups, and let's get amplified. My unit, what a beautiful morning it is. The Packers from Green Bay with a massive, what? Stunning, what? Shocking, what? Unbelievable victory last night over the New Orleans Saints. 18-17 was the final. We were in the fourth quarter trailing 17-0. All of a sudden, the Saints stop playing football. The Packers wake up, and we win the game in the final seconds, 18-17. I put up a review late last night. Thank you to the hundreds of you guys that have already caught that. I know a lot of that might be Packer fans, but I know a lot of those views are also just you guys showing some love, smashing the up, saying what's up to BC. So either which way, I'm glad that I was able to get that up last night and not today, because that was such an awesome victory. And we recorded that moments after we won the game. So that cold open, man, it was still a goosebumps moment. What a victory. I know they lost their star quarterback in the third quarter, but we had a lot of stars that were out of the game from the jump. Star running back, gone, Aaron Jones. Star receiver, Watson, gone. Offensive lineman star, Bakhtiari, gone. And several others. So it is what it is. Injuries are a part of the game. It's not ballet. And we started the game with a lot of our stars out of the game. So it is what it is. What a massive W for GBP. And for the Saints, that was a long ride home to think about how and where it all went wrong. Salute to my Packers. Salute to everybody that caught that review yesterday. I appreciate you guys big time, man. But it's a new day. Yes, it is. On that day, I see clearly. And it is Monday, which means it is time for some pro wrestling. And I got a lot of topics for you guys, bro. Where do we start? Let's start with the main topic first, all right? We'll do some Steiner math later. We'll talk about how WWE made this massive $1.4 billion deal, but somehow they lost even more. It's like winning the battle but losing the war, and WWE unfortunately just did that. For now. We'll talk about it. And we're also going to talk Hulkamania running wild. We're going to talk Batista. Wait till you hear, man. There's some challengers for Batista already. Wait till you hear these names and what they got to say. But let's start with these releases that happened last week. Let me get a swig of coffee because this is going to be a little bit detailed. I'll try to go over this as quick as possible, but I want to be fully detailed because there's a lot to go over and it does raise a lot of good, interesting questions. Now, first and foremost, what you need to know is that Ari and Endeavor orchestrated the releases from the jump. This is what they call the flywheel strategy. Now, it's nothing that WWE hasn't done in the past, obviously, right? Cuts have been a part of business since the inception of business. Pro wrestling is no different, especially WWE in the way that they run their operation. Vince McMahon in recent years, for instance, doing massive cuts, releases, and firings. So this is not a shocker that Endeavor introduces what they call the flywheel. When they acquired UFC, they were able to cut $70 million in cost. Good for them. It's business. I get it. People are going to lose their jobs. So when they acquired WWE in this merger sale, the estimation was $50 to $100 million that they were looking to cut in cost, right? BC's number was over 70. You want to get more than you got in UFC because WWE is a bigger conglomerate. So you're thinking at least 70. That's your bare minimum. $100 million in cut cost. That's really your goal, right? So you start with the employees in WWE's headquarters in Stamford, Connecticut, and that's what they did. Now, unfortunately, that was another 100 individuals, by the way. Would have been more if WWE didn't ravage through their headquarters before the sale, because they were trying to sexify their business operations so that somebody would buy them out or merge like this, right? They want to appeal to whoever, a potential buyer. So they fired a lot of people. They merged and condensed and consolidated a lot of departments together so that when a buyer like Endeavor came around, they were like, all right, there's not a lot of work that needs to be done here. This is a pretty interesting concept. We couldn't make this work, and that's what happened. Endeavor was able to purchase this, merge it in, $9.3 billion deal. But now you still have to get the $70 to $100 million in cut cost. Okay, now even more people are going to lose their jobs, starting with headquarters. Then, because that's only going to get you, what, $10 to $15 million when it's all said and done, and I'm being generous. That's if they each get $100,000 to $150,000 salaries per year. So where is the other tens of millions of dollars coming from that you need to cut those costs? Okay, that's going to be the releases of talent. That's why when Nick Khan said many months ago, when this deal was first announced, we have no intention on cutting talent, BC threw up the red flag and said, not so fast. That's actually a lie. That's not true at all. There's going to be talent cuts. There's no other way to recoup tens of millions of dollars with this type of operation they have. No business expense, no employee contract is going to, or employee salary is going to recoup you that amount of money. It's the talent. That's the assets right now that is going to recoup you what you're looking for, 70 to 100 million. So that's exactly what happened. I mean, you could take the 25, I think it was, when it was all said and done. Some of these were just little low-end NXT contracts, $250,000 a year, for instance. So you add them up. And if you say that this equaled maybe 15, 20 million extra dollars, right? And you were able to get 15 on the employee firings, and you're able to do another 20 on operational cut costs. Okay, so what are you around, 60 million? 50 to 60? That tells you right there, there's still another 10 to 40 million dollars on the table that needs to be addressed. So if you think this is the last round of cuts, not at all, not by a long shot. Whether it's imminently or not remains to be seen. I mean, The Rock, John Cena, a lot of people, Ric Flair, made a big deal about these cuts, and it was because of Dolph Ziggler more than anything. So WWE was like, whoa, that's a lot of negative press. We knew we'd get a little bit, but with The Rock's return and rumors of the dude that we're about to talk to in a few minutes, his return, and Jonathan Cena's return, Man, we thought in this new contract with SmackDown, we thought people would be talking a little bit more, the headlines would be a little bit more positive. No, man, the Dolph Ziggler thing really shocked a lot of people. So do they hold off on this big second round of cuts? We'll see. But that was going to happen regardless, all these cuts, these talent cuts, no matter what Nick Khan said. And there's another 10 to 40 million that needs to be accounted for and cut cost. And most of that is going to be talent cuts, their contracts. So look for even more in the future. But I wanted to set this whole conversation up with why this was done. People just want to say, well, Vince just got greedy and wanted more money. Well, hold up. Usually you can blame Vince on this. That's fine. This case, this was Endeavor's flywheel. They had already addressed how they're going to go about their operations when acquiring WWE, and they said it was the same way they went about UFC. So Endeavor said, this is the amount we need, get it done. Now, Vince McMahon at that point absolutely puts the wheels in motion. He has to. With the position he's in, he's got to be right there to do exactly what Ari needs. And usually, in years past, it's easy to say the final call is Vince McMahon's on who gets fired, who gets cut. This latest round, interesting. You look at these names, a lot of these people, you would think Vince McMahon people, right? Or people that Vince was high on, or you thought were lifers. They ain't going anywhere. But some of these talents, when they speak out, they're telling you that the second Vince stepped away from the majority power, which a lot of wrestling fans still to this day do not want to believe. They know that because Vince is still in it in any way, Vince has to be the be-all and end-all on every segment, every show, every decision, right? So if a show is bad from top to bottom, it's just Vince. And a lot of wrestling fans, they cannot comprehend that Paul Levesque McMahon is right there in Gorilla, not Vince. On a show-by-show basis, anyway. Once in a while, Vince will show up. And they just want to go, no, he's remotely on the phone, or he's remotely making the calls, right? He could be in a forest with a little bit of fire in front of him, and he's fucking roasting marshmallows, but he's remotely calling in the show, right? He's on an airplane banging out a paralegal, but he's remotely calling the show. They just want to say Vince, 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 because the shows are still not up to par, and Paul Levesque McMahon is your chief creative officer. So on this channel, what we do it a little different. We blame both Vince and H for allowing it to happen, even if he had zero say, to still want to be in that position just so you can rake in more money, even though your principles and priorities are out of whack. And then Paul goes on all the interviews, like just recently, and said, why would you not want Vince around? He has a wealth of knowledge. H said, I go to Vince till this day for creativity. I go to Vince for ideas. A lot of wrestling fans thought it was the other way around. Vince is just fucking tying up Triple H every show, and Vince is calling every shot. And now you're starting to hear from these wrestlers, Vince, we knew he had some control still. Vince himself said he's in the weeds, but not like he used to be. But he's in the weeds on some decisions, just not on a lot of the smaller ones for sure, like the day-to-day creative, the segment-to-segment creative. But you're starting to hear now from these wrestlers that got released, like, whoa, he's a lot more not into this than a lot of us thought. And when Emma and what's Emma's? Who's the other one that got released with Emma? It's her real life boyfriend, fiance, whatever it is. Riddick Moss. Riddick Moss, in his statement when he got released, he said, I know a lot of you guys think my career ended when Vince left, but my per-match DM went up. So he tried to make a joke out of it because a lot of people were saying, wait, we noticed something. When H took over, we didn't even see you anymore. Now, Riddick Moss had a bunch of potential, obviously, a lot. Riddick Moss could have been something very special. His push was going pretty damn good, and then we just didn't see him again. And Moss actually said, I know, he acknowledged it, right? It was weird. It's like, I know a lot of you guys think my career was over, not just now that I got fired, but the second Triple H took over. But he made a joke out of it. At least my per-match DM went up. Or whatever he said, something like that. Tried to turn it into a joke. But just alluding to, acknowledging that, yeah, when H took over, Riddick Moss and Emma, his girlfriend, that was done. You literally didn't see him. Rick Boogs just spoke out. Rick Boogs is not happy. Rick Boogs said, this is a quote from Boogs, just recently, guys, over the last 24 hours. Rick Boogs says, and I quote, "I can say with a 100% certainty the removal of Vince McMahon killed my career." That's a quote. "I can, with 100% certainty, say that the removal of Vince McMahon killed my career." He says, "My job in WWE was terminated due to a backstage political power play." Think about that for a second. Everybody just thinks Vince is just the be-all, end-all, and on many things he is. But did Triple H have a lot more say in these cuts? Was it put on his desk and say, hey, you put up the names, we'll talk about it? Maybe Vince still has to be the final say, but Triple H is going to make his case on a lot of people. A backstage political power play is what Boogs believes cost him his jobs, but he says it wasn't Vince. He says the removal of Vince is what killed my career. Vince was in my corner. There was a backstage political power play once he was removed. What? Now, I'm not saying it was just Paul Levesque. I mean, there's other suits and ties that could have sway or say, right? There's Kevin Dunn's in the production truck. If you don't know too much behind the scenes, you're thinking, well, a production guy can have say. Yeah, actually, Kevin Dunn has a lot to say. There's the Brewster Pritchards that everybody has blamed for years, right? He's Vince McMahon's right-hand man, Brewster Pritchard. That's actually not true, by the way. They're very tight. Nick Khan is Vince's right-hand man. And before that, it was George Barrios. And even John Laurinaitis, you could say, would be before Bruce. It's a different relationship than you would think with Brother Love and Vincent Kennedy. But there's him as well, right? People have blamed Brewster Pritchard for certain pushes or non-pushes, right? So my point is there's other suit and ties, but that would be odd. If Vince is removed, Brewster Pritchard is now going to... I mean, if they're close like they are, Vince and Brewster, wouldn't he look out for some of Vince's... That doesn't make sense. The point is, a lot of these wrestlers are alluding to Vince being removed. Their careers were already done. The writing was on the wall, whether it's an Emma or a Moss or a Boogs. Obviously, Brooke said the same thing. Dana Brooke has nothing but praise for Vincent Kennedy, and that's obviously why Vincent Kennedy loved having Dana around, right? Dana and her booyaka booyakas. And she was improving in the ring as well, but there was never really that connection with the majority of the audience. So all these cuts would happen every year, unfortunately. And a lot of people, you never want to see somebody lose their job, but a lot of people are like, how is Dana Brooke still there? Well, Vince loved Dana, obviously. But it's not shocking that, maybe that's not as shocking as some of the others, that Paul Levesque would rid that. But some, like Rick Boogs, had all the talent in the world, man. Just book him properly. This dude was actually fun. I didn't mind him when he was with Elias taking notes. Elias says, take notes. And then Elias goes out there, gets his ass whooped quickly. And Boogs is taking that. So he was funny. He was fucking built like a house. And he was ready to rock. Boogs was good, man. It sucks that he got injured against the Usos at WrestleMania. What was it, 2 years ago? Something like that. The injury really took him out, but Vince wanted to give him another push and do something special. And then Vince was and the bigger thing here is I hope people now understand, like, when Vince says, when Nick Khan, when the company says Vince has a lot less power than you think creatively on who gets pushed and who doesn't. Not saying he doesn't make some big calls or have some say. But again, Paul Levesque is telling you he goes to Vince when he has a conundrum, which I'm guessing is often. He goes to Vince for ideas. He goes to Vince for creativity. Vince is probably like, get out of my office, you doofus son-in-law. Think for yourself. I gotta do everything for you. So Paul Levesque goes to him. And now all these wrestlers are saying, no, but Vince was in our corner. So I doubt very much Vince was the first person to pitch our names for cuts or releases or firings. A lot of people are not afraid to speak out against the powers that remain in creative and who's responsible for these pushes. And again, if it's not Paul Levesque, Rick Moss did, or no, I'm sorry, Rick Boogs did say, now's not the time to talk about it, but when the time is right, we'll discuss the backstage political politics that were played. Right, that's what he said, right? Backstage political power play was his words. We'll discuss that when the time is right, he says. Interested to hear, man. Again, if it's not Paul Levesque, everybody else was kind of working right there with Vince. It raises a lot of questions, man. But it does show you that Paul Levesque had a lot more say this time around. If not, damn near the final say with these releases. A lot of the talent is telling you that. It raises a lot of questions. Be interesting to hear more deets on it. And I'm sure more wrestlers will speak on it as well as their 30, 60, 90 day, whatever their clause is. Some wrestlers were different, which is odd too, by the way. Usually you would just get the 60 day or the 90 day. Very odd. But there you go, man. Rick Boog says, I can say with 100% certainty the removal of Vince McMahon killed my career. My job in WWE was terminated due to a backstage political power play. Damn. Somebody didn't like Boogs. Boogs knew it. And Boogs said the second Vince left or was removed for the most part on big decisions like that, pushes, he said his career was killed, man. Paul Levesque, what you got to say on that, brother? Interesting, man. Also, Santos Escobar was recent comments talking about how high he praises Vince McMahon. He even recently had Rey Mysterio get him a meeting with Vince for a couple minutes. He said, I just want to praise him. I just want to say thank you. Rey was able to get Vince to see him for a couple of minutes, and Escobar was just like, you have no idea what he did for just me to get to where I am. I wanted to tell. And Escobar said something even more interesting. He said, I've only got to see like face-to-face Vince 4 times maybe. He said, since I've been at WWE, I've got to see this dude maybe 4 times, maybe talk to him a couple times, like just in passing. That's why he had to get Rey Mysterio to kind of set something up. For everybody that thinks that Vince is just like, man, he's just calling everything. I mean, Escobar basically is saying he's a ghost in WWE. Doubt very much he's on the phone every single second making sure that certain people are being pushed and not, and creative for Raw and SmackDown and NXT segment by segment. I doubt very much, man. This dude looks like he's about to cash out at any moment. He already made just bank. He's got so much baggage. He's brokering these big deals. At some point, people are going to have to realize, man, Paul Levesque McMahon is running this shit. So if you don't like the shows, if you don't like who's being pushed, if you don't like certain things, you can, at the bare minimum, blame Paul too. It's okay. You don't have to just say everything bad, Vince, everything good, Paul. I hope people will be more honest in the future with that. So Santos Escobar telling you what a legend McMahon is too, and that goes with the final part of this whole segment of this podcast. From what we are hearing, the morale in the WWE locker room, it's uncertain. There's no question. The reports you heard is the exact reports I'm hearing from my people down in Florida. It is uncertainty, a little bit of panic. And it's stressful. Nobody knows, when and if they're going to, or if and when they're going to lose their job, or if one of their close friends, their brothers or sisters, are going to lose their job. But we're also hearing that they're missing Vince McMahon. Literally what I'm hearing. A lot of people are missing Vince on the day-to-day stuff. Being there. The ones that were able to talk to him a little bit more than like the Santoses. Or like the Santoses that were just able to see him a couple of times here and there. But they're actually missing him because there's a lack of organization. There's a lack of consistency. There's a lack of something that was greater missing in the locker room. And a lot of these wrestlers are saying that it doesn't feel right. And that goes to Paul Levesque. Is he the right leader for that locker room? Is he the right guy to lead the charge? Unfortunately, not. It's DX all over again, right? He's not the Shawn Michaels. He's the sidekick. He's Triple H. He's Hunter. He's Hunter Hearst Helmsley. And in business, he's just not Vince. He's Hunter Hearst Helmsley. So, you hope that changes. You hope that the locker room really looks at him more of a leader. But, with the NXT boys and gals, they always called, right, it was Papa H. We joke around. We call him Papa H. And, because he's always there with the speech. When Cody got screwed over at Mania, he was there to be like, well, think about it. You were at WrestleMania, though. You're at Mania, He tries to do the deep voice, so he sounds more like Vince. When, if you ever heard his promos, it's much more higher. He's Hunter. He's got the nose, so he's higher pitched. But he lowers his voice in business now, and he talks to Cody, He's like, don't worry, you were at Mania, though, man. I mean, yeah, I screwed you, and you were laying down next to a rubber chicken instead of a championship. But you were at Mania, man, in front of your family and friends, and everybody was let down, and the air was sucked out of the stadium, and the wrestling world still to this day doesn't know why that decision was made. But in the future, maybe, man, 40, Philadelphia, when the moment is less big, and we give you Judgment Day for 7 months, and Brock Lesnar for 4 months. Struggle, adversity. He was there, right? LA Knight, right? Can't even get on a pay-per-view when he's one of the hottest superstars in the world. And good things come to those that wait, buddy. Don't worry about it, man. Good things come to those that wait. Just relax. I don't know, man. We got to move on with the podcast, but it's an interesting concept, right? I mean, they can, we could joke and call you Papa H, but being a Papa doesn't necessarily make you a good leader of a company. And that's, it's like a good assistant coach that everybody looks up to, like Nathaniel Hackett, right? The coordinator now for the Jets, and he was for the Packers. A lot of people have such great things to say about Nathaniel Hackett. They love the dude. And then he was the head coach of the Broncos, and a lot of people in the business of the NFL and football in general said, whoa, this guy should not be a coach. Even when he got the coordinator job with the Jets, so he's no longer a coach because he got fired after a season. But even when he went back to just being a coordinator, people are like, whoa, never do that again. But people say nice things about Nathaniel. He's a good guy, and he gives the good speeches, but he shouldn't be running the team. Right? Some people are Nathaniel Hackett's. Some people are Bill Belichick's. It's all right. Just know the role, But we'll see, man. We'll all continue to hope that it gets better in that locker room, and hopefully after all these cuts are done, hopefully the right people are put in place. I believe WWE is never truly going to get back to being really good until all the McMahons are just out of the equation. A Vincent Kennedy McMahon, a Paul Levesque McMahon, a Stephanie McMahon, and as much as I love the dude, Shane McMahon. Doesn't mean I don't want to see Shane back. He's got to have that one last man. He can't go out like he did at Mania, man. Shane O'Mac's got to come back. He'd be the best McMahon to propel WWE. If there was going to be one, I would choose Shane McMahon running this place over Paul Levesque McMahon any day. I would put Vince Russo over Paul Levesque McMahon. But that's another story. I don't think WWE is truly going to excel until all the McMahons are kind of out of the equation. Just take all the money you've made and go live great. But the product, Paul Levesque McMahon, for instance, the apple doesn't fall too far from the tree. He's just learned everything. He's already not a leader as it is, and then he's learned everything from Vince, and that's pretty clear the way he does business. And then he says, when I don't have an idea, when I'm not creative, when I have absolutely nothing, I go to Vince. We don't need you going to Vince. We need somebody who's got the ideas at all times. We need somebody who's not burnt out. Triple H is burnt out. After he got his ass whooped by Tony Khan in AEW, that was it, man. You know, he's a shell of what he once was. You see that. You hear it in his voice. You see it in his eyes. He's got his bifocals on. He can't even read. I mean, the guy's drained from the business. He just collected another $5 to $10 million, probably another $5. There'll be another bonus down the line. So I'm sure he's just collecting right now. But that's what I mean. We need people that are just not about the bottom dollar, right? Let the Endeavors, let Ari, let them worry about that. You just put WWE back on track, man. Every show, every segment captivating again. Can you just do that? We need somebody to do that. And if your name is McMahon, or Levesque McMahon, as we joke, I don't know, man. It's just going to be more of the same, especially when a dude tells you, I'm going to Vince for my ideas when I'm in a conundrum. Oh, don't do that. Anyway, guys, that's the main story. Rick Boogs, Riddick Moss, and many other individuals telling you that the second Vince left, they knew their career was done. That's kind of sad because a lot of these people had so much potential. And again, Matt Riddle, I believe, is in a whole nother space. I don't think he was originally part of these cuts. That was just Matt Riddle being Matt Riddle, burning yet another bridge. A fourth chance, not a third, by the way. If you caught the last podcast, you know what I'm talking about. It was a SmackDown review, and the whole cold open and then some was about Matthew Riddle. So we talked exactly about how he was on his fourth chance. Anyway, guys, moving on. Do you guys want to? You know what? We'll stick WWE right now. We'll talk Batista. If you guys caught the 2 podcasts ago, you guys saw that Batista's return to WWE could in fact be imminent. And obviously that makes sense. It coincides with the current situation in Hollywood, right? Hollywood, the writers are on strike, so everybody in the business is showing and representing everybody on strike, showing respect and representing. A lot of Hollywood actors even standing in line with some of these picketers. So Hollywood basically shut down. That's why you see John Cena was committed to a couple of months straight with WWE. That's why The Rock had time on his hands, goes over to Colorado and shows up on SmackDown. And then Batista. If you saw the podcast, it was 2 podcasts ago, right before the SmackDown review. I gave you Batista's actual quote. Don't have it in front of me now, but it was something to the effect of, yeah, if I get the call and I like what I hear, absolutely, I'll come back. A segment, a moment, whatever they need. He admits he feels he had the perfect retirement. He's okay if it ended like that, but he'll absolutely come back. I give you guys the exact quote. Batista saying he's ready to return. He's got nothing right now. Wide open schedule. So now they're starting to line up, right? Bobby Lashley recently asked, because now the wrestling world is realizing, wait a second, this is going to be a little bit more of a reality. We're probably going to see Batista soon. Bobby Lashley on Batista's return, and I quote from Lashley, "Dave is definitely somebody I would love to have a match with. It would be something that would do some huge box office numbers. Of course, you want to bring somebody like him back. Dave is somebody I would love to have a match with." Lashley thinks it would do huge box office numbers. Now, on the flip side of that, before I go to give some comments on Lashley, there was another superstar, Grayson Waller, who said, I would love to give Batista the Grayson Waller rub. What else would you expect from Waller? Now, this does bring up an interesting scenario, right? Somebody like Lashley, if done correctly, could be a special attraction match. Absolutely. An exhibition that we would want to see. If done correctly, you get the right promos for Batista. And you really hope that Lashley delivers. He's not the best on the mic, but that's what I mean about if done correctly. If you put Bobby Lashley in a position where you're playing to his strengths and you're hiding his weaknesses, that's what you have to do with somebody with Lashley, because he checks off every other box. And then you just get creative backstage. You just get creative. You saw what they did with Solo and AJ Styles on SmackDown to end the show, and Cena and Jimmy Uso. They got creative, man. They let an entire 2 segments breathe, or a segment and a half. But you just let it breathe. You just let a story play out. These shows, don't be afraid to have the story take more time than the actual wrestling matches. You want people to want to pay for the matches that we should be caring about. Premium live events, pay-per-view, streaming services, traditional PPV, whatever you want to call it. Make your audience pay for it. And you set it all up with stories during the shows. These are TV shows. Entertain us. A bunch of wrestling matches. And people talking on the mic that shouldn't have any business on a microphone because they don't have the gift to gab and they're not confident on the mic. And it's not believable. That's not going to pull in ratings. That's not going to make an audience care. So, if done correctly, I absolutely see scenarios where Lashley and Batista could be something special. Now, on the flip side, WWE would most likely go with the easy, the lazy option, Grayson Waller, right? Look how John Cena came out with the Waller effect. Look how The Rock came back. That was Austin Theory, but Theory's right there. He's linked up with Grayson Waller, and Waller's been talking about The Rock and John Cena nonstop, and that's why you're kind of seeing them all mingle. So, Batista coming back, you'd have to believe, let's just stick him with the Miz type character, right? The annoying one that always gets beat up by the big superstar in the ring, or that he's in the ring with. So, you got to believe Batista would return in a moment, as Batista even said. I'd come back for a segment or a moment. You got to believe it would be just to take out Grayson Waller. It does nothing for Waller, but it does give the fans a moment. But with the time that Hollywood has on their hands, and it doesn't look like there's any end in sight, there's still a lot of I's that need to be dotted and T's that need to be crossed. Maybe a little bit more than a segment or a moment. I know he had his retirement match and he's happy with that, but you throw him over a bunch of money. You do it in a way where everybody is protected and it's good business for everybody. I think we could pull out one more match with Batista, and you know what? No harm, no foul. It's an exhibition. On these shows that desperately need us to care again, we need entertainment on these wrestling shows. I'm sure Batista would offer at least a little bit of that entertainment, man. But they're already lining up, man. As word broke that Batista is absolutely ready to come back. It's about the phone call, and if it sounds good to him, and if it makes sense, and it's a good enough situation. So now everybody's lining up. Hulkamania, running wild, brother. Let me tell you something, Mean Gene. Hulk Hogan, congratulations. We are hearing he just got married for the, I'm told, 3rd time, his 3rd marriage. I don't know who. I know Linda, the mother of Brooke and Nick. I don't know the other one, but you don't have to know everything about these individuals, so that's good for him. He could have 17, it wouldn't matter. Good for him. That's stuff we don't need to know about. But a 3rd marriage, it looks like. Hulk Hogan just got married to Sky Daly, I believe her name is. All apologies if I muffed it. I don't have the name in front of me. I think her name was Sky Daly. That sounds like an interesting name with certain professions, but I'm sure she's a lovely lady. She's, as long as she's treating Hulk good and vice versa, salute to the newly married couple. Sky Daly. And she's young, too, or at least looks much. I mean, she's like when Hulk married Linda. Maybe not that young, but like she's... So Hulk is like, you know what? He still feels like Hulk Hogan in his 30s or 40s. So he gonna marry that way. But good for Hulk, man. Hulkamania is still running wild. Just not in WWE. But when the bedroom door closes, Sky will tell you, Hulkamania is running wild, brother. I don't know if she would say it like that, but Congratulations to Hulk Hogan. Let's go over to this. This is a big story too, man. I'll try to keep this as the least amount of a headache for you guys as possible, because we're going to crack numbers and we're going to do some Steiner math. But a lot of fans don't understand how WWE can announce this $1.4 billion deal with SmackDown leaving Fox and going to the USA Network. Well, first and foremost, we have to have all our facts, all our ducks in a row, all our facts accounted for. And that's where BC comes into play. First, you would have to understand the whole process. Fox said from the beginning, we're not going to meet your demands, Nick Khan. And Nick Khan was looking, from what we're hearing, he was looking for $325 million a year. That was a starting point for Nick Khan. When Fox heard this, Fox said, oh, absolutely not. We're not doing it. And they made those comments public. They said publicly, we're not doing this with WWE. The ratings are not there. And they were pulling in much better ratings than Raw. But obviously, that's broadcast television. That's CBS, ABC, NBC, Fox, right? So you're going to pull in, you have more capability to pull in more viewers. It's broadcast. Everybody gets broadcast. You have an antenna, you got broadcast. You got to pay for cable. So they were thinking, they were not shy about saying this from the jump. They were hoping for 3 to 3.5 million viewers on average. They truly felt if WWE puts out the best creativity possible, and the way that Fox was promoting them, I mean, during NFL games, during primetime television, any night of the week, they were promoting SmackDown heavily. You cannot blame Fox for WWE and where they ended up, numbers-wise. Fox did exactly what they said they were going to do. They promoted the shit out of this show. And unfortunately, WWE did not hold up their end of the bargain. They were just interested in liquidating their assets, making the most money at the time. And they truly felt the ego in them. The ego that they had, that they truly felt like Fox was going to just be knocking on the door come next time, fucking TV rights deal time, and be like, we're ready to cut a new deal with you. How much money do you want? No, Fox was like, absolutely not. Just a couple weeks ago, they went to 2.0 flat. If you don't have John Cena or The Rock or Roman, you're not seeing 2.5. And you're dipping, you just saw a couple weeks ago, to a 2.0. And I believe that was with John Cena, wasn't it? Point is, they were about to go under 2 mil. This is a channel, Fox, a conglomerate, that was expecting 3 to 3.5. So my point is, they were saying for the longest time, we've covered it extensively. Fox said, we're not meeting your demands. Nick Khan was like, you will. We feel grossly underappreciated. We feel that the deals that we cut with Fox and NBC were grossly underappreciated, which in business talks means they feel they were lowballed. Nick Khan feels that WWE should have got more money for these TV rights deal. Meanwhile, the ratings are going backwards. What planet are these people living on? So Fox says no. And that's why it's called an exclusive window, that the channel that you're on, the conglomerate that owns it, Fox, NBC, Comcast, they get to deal with you exclusively, right? Before you even open up the negotiating doors to anybody else. Fox had a window where it's just them, and Fox said no thank you. They shut that door down. They shut all the windows. They said no. We have nothing to talk about. So then WWE had to go talk to who knows who. Maybe Amazon, maybe Apple. Apple's trying to do a lot streaming-wise. They even got Yankee games now, like Prime. And to their good buddies, Comcast, NBC Universal, which obviously oversees the USA Network and WWE Raw. And once it was clear that USA Network was not going to touch $325, I think they only got the deal with SmackDown because they don't want to do business with Raw. Unless something changes in the future, which could happen. I mean, it's a long relationship with Raw and USA Network. But I believe they see their writing on the wall. WWE is getting closer to 1 million viewers a week. They're going down drastically. SmackDown pulls in the better ratings. So they're like, if we're going to continue our partnership with WWE, it's got to be SmackDown. I don't even think they wanted to pay the $287 that they ended up paying a year. But they sure as hell told WWE and Nick Khan, we are not touching 325. We're not even touching 300 million a year. So Nick Khan, after weighing all the options, they had to settle for 287 million a year over 5 years. That equates to 1.4 billion. Now up front, you say, BC, that's a ton of money. What are you talking about? Absolutely. Nobody's saying it's not. Nick knows that. Vinnie Mac, Ari, all of Endeavor. Everybody knows $1.4 billion is a ton of money. Everybody's set. $287 million deal per year for 5 years. Just over 1.4 bill. The point is, they came nowhere near the 325 that they honestly believed they were going to hit. And remember, that was Nick Khan's starting point, the bare minimum. He was probably thinking he could walk away with 340. 340 a year. 325 million, nowhere near. 287. So you do your Steiner math. You have... I had to get some coffee before we do the Steiner math, if you don't mind. It's got to be done, right? So let's do this. 325 is what they were asking for, bare minimum. They ended up 287 a year. $1 million, a lot of money. But you're leaving 287 to 325. You left $38 million a year on the table. 38 times 5, which is the amount of years this deal is for, times the 38 million you did not get, because you didn't get 325, you got 287. 38 times 5, in terms of $1 million, you're looking at nearly $200 million. Right? 38 times 5. 30 times 5 is what? 150. And then the extra 8 times 5 is 40. 150 times 4, plus 40 is $190 million. And again, this is ballpark. So let's just say nearly $200 million. Bare minimum left on the table. So yeah, 1.4. A lot of money. Big deal. Everybody can pop the champagne. But if you think WWE is celebrating too vividly, nope. They know this is a company that literally wants every penny. They want every penny, and they don't care how they get to it. It's not about bottom dollar with this company. It's bottom penny. And every penny in the process. And to know that they had almost $200 million left on the table, they were hoping for 325 bare minimum, most likely 340. If it's the 340, could you imagine that? That's another 15 times 5. And then you're at 75 million more. I mean, that's over 260 that's left on the table. And then it brings us to our point of the stock, the NYSE, New York Stock Exchange, which, by the way, is no longer trading at WWE. It's now TKO Holdings Group, I believe. That's what they're trading at now. So when you opened up the what was it? Thursday, Friday? It was right before SmackDown, maybe. I forgot when it was, but just several days ago, when the news broke that SmackDown was going to the USA Network and off of Fox, the moment before that announcement was made, they were trading at $104. Call them points, 104 points. And within an hour, they had already fallen 10, and still, to this very morning, they're trading at 83. They lost over 20 points, trading over $20 less. For those of you that don't follow stocks or whatever, that's fine. Just know that that's a lot of money lost. Like, that scares the shit out of investors, shareholders, anybody involved in the stock or following it, who's thinking about jumping on board. Wow, when you see 20 plus points gone, blink of an eye, snap of a finger, drop of a hat, that's bad. And that was before the releases even. That was them seeing, whoa, we thought you were going to pull over 300 mil per year on this new TV rights deal. It's almost like you settled. You still cashed the F in, but whoa, they're looking at, you got to know how stocks work, though, on this area. I would never tell you have to follow them, but on this area, you always have to remember this when it comes to stocks. Things go up and down and all around because people are trying to see the future of the stock. It's all about what is next. How much more money can I get? And how much could I lose? So what that tells you is not, oh, that's just a bad moment for WWE. They just dropped 20 points. That tells you that people are seeing that the writing is on the wall. The signs are all there. If they're already only getting 287 for the better show, well, what the heck is Raw gonna get? If they're hoping for anywhere near 250, 275 to 300, are they only gonna get 225, 175? Could you imagine? The point is, they're already starting to see that big conglomerates like Fox and even NBC Universal Comcast, who made the deal, they're not willing to meet WWE where they want anymore. And I told you guys this was going to happen. They liquidated everything. They gave up on the product for over 10 years. They were just resting on their laurels of what Vince created over the past several decades. And that's great. He's more than obligated to do such. He created it, he can cash in. But they gave up on the product for the past 10 years plus. We all know that. The product has been in the shitter for over 10 years. Nowhere near where it used to be. The care is not there for this product. There's no effort. These people stopped caring. They're cashing in. That's just what they're doing. A Vince, a Paul Levesque. I mean, look at Paul there with Vince every step of the way with Ari. The smiles on their faces, so genuine, man. They cashed in. H got his fucking $10 million bonus and another. It was a $5 million bonus, then another, and then there's another one in the future, I'm sure. Because I'm hearing a lot of the execs are getting the 5, and, Paul's going to be another. Good for them. That's great. And when you're cashing in like that, and it's all about that bottom dollar, bottom penny, the product is suffering. Because they're just thinking, man, we can just keep liquidating. Saudi Arabia will pay us $100 million just to bring our superstars over there twice a year for a few years. Fox will give us $1 billion deal. Comcast will give us $1 billion for Peacock. We'll get another $1 billion for the next SmackDown deal, and $1.5 billion or $2 billion for the next Raw. Who knows? They honestly believe that this money would keep pouring in the way that it just did the last go around. And we're already starting to see, no. Companies are not going to do that if the numbers aren't there. When the product is suffering, you're going to start seeing that in the rating. And the ratings are showing these companies it's not worth the money anymore. $200 million was left on the table. When you're talking about $1.4 billion, that might not seem like a lot to you, but because you didn't care about your product, it cost you $200 million. If you just brought in the 3 to 3.5, I believe Fox renews this deal, and I believe WWE walks away with 330. I don't know about the 340. That's a little steep. I think they get their 325. I think they meet at 330. And for anybody that ever says ratings don't matter, oh, they do. They do. Fox knows they can get the same advertisers they were getting those 2 years. 4 years, what am I saying? They know they can get the same advertisers, and it'll cost them a lot less money in that time slot. Will they pull in 2 to 2 every week? Maybe not. But it'll cost them a lot less, and they'll still make a tank load of money every Friday. Because the advertisers will still be there. You can put on Law & Order SVU or Blue Bloods reruns. They'll save money and actually make money. They were hoping for more, and WWE failed them. That's why you see 287. Still a lot of money, but I hope you guys understand why the stock plummeted immediately after the deal was announced. Because everybody sees that's the beginning. Everybody else is now not going to want to meet these high numbers. And that's going to affect everybody overall involved with this company. Not good. Maybe this will force them to care about the product, the shows that we are viewing. SmackDown, interesting the past couple weeks. The return of Pat McAfee and Rock and Cena. It brought a little bit of a pulse back to this show. Last week ended with an actual cliffhanger, a fun segment that was left to breathe over a segment and a half. With what happened with Solo and Styles and everybody. Cena's beat down. I love how they let it all just breathe. Tell the story. Make us care about a match in the future. Provide entertainment. What a concept on a television show. Past couple weeks, they actually got their ducks in a row. They actually cared a little bit more. Shouldn't be too shocked. It's because they were about to finalize a deal. I hope we see more care and effort put into these shows. Resources, love put into these shows. That's it. That's the podcast. Go rock out your days. Stay amplified. Whoop that ass. Until next time, and there will be that next time. The Amplified Man saying check you. Peace. Top guys, we're out.